pretend busy. So aku ceki his jauh. Waktu pequeen was stupefy. Good jazz plastic sources out. Genuine test for Maury. Quick neck be a gizin on. Martin accept nothing. Good jazz plastic sources out.
No. Alawa. Kunite!
Hello, everybody. I am E Roadhouse, joined by my fellow co-commentator, Anonymous Source. Hello, Anonymous.
Hello. Hello, it's great to be here for what should be a very exciting race.
Yeah, we've got a couple of free play runners for Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. We've got Jablaky and Saber, and they're both very close in PB, so this should be a really good race. So I believe they're both ready for a countdown. Let's give them a second just in case they aren't ready. Okay, sweet. All right, I'm gonna give them a 5-second countdown, and we'll go on go. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And we're going to get some pretty immediate action in this level. This is the level where you fight the Emperor, and there's a fun skip here where you can just push him off the edge. It's lore accurate. You're going to see they lure him down using both players, and player 2 lures him down, and they're going to... And player 1 will push him off as Grievous. He's got the big lightsabers. And Jablaky gets it quickly, Saber struggling a little bit. But you can see, you just get him straight off, the level's already over.
Yeah. So we got to explain a lot there. So
Yeah.
something with Lego games, if you're not familiar, there's the big co-op aspect, right? And so you can both players can play at the same time, and so actually each runner is controlling both players. And so that skip is pretty complicated because you have to use player 1 specifically to kind of lure the Emperor down there, and then use the other player to push him off the edge. And when he dies, the level ends. But that's a pretty quick
and we
one.
can
It's only like 12 seconds.
Yeah. And we can see another use of 1P2C here. Really, it just helps you do two things at once, and that is helpful in just so many places in the run. But now we get a more pure movement section. They're using Anakin's pod, which is the fastest ship by far. And up ahead, we're going to get our first real clip of the run, which will be all over the place. They're going to switch from the very small Anakin's pod to the much larger Clone Arc Fighter, and that confuses the game when they do it up against a wall, and it'll just push you through.
This is also used a lot in the ground levels, specifically with Yoda. It's called a Yoda clipping. We're going to see that a lot in the future. Something I kind of want to touch on early, though, is we're starting in episode 6, and we're going to go down the levels and end on episode 1. And kind of the reason we do that... Oh, Saber doing the clip there.
Ooh,
that's pretty
let's go.
uncommon. I think he saved a little time to Jablaky there, trying to catch up. The reason we start in episode 6 is kind of a small thing, but every time you exit the level, your player 1, which is Droideka, which is the fastest ground movement character, that you can select always spawns on the left side of the door. And so it's just faster to start all the way at the end. That way you can just enter the next level very quickly. Um, Instead of having to go all the way around player 2, it's just faster to go down. So we start in episode 6 and go all the way down to episode 1.
Yeah, I mean, that aspect only saves like 2 seconds. Another big thing that obviously doesn't apply here is just that the original trilogy levels are a lot harder, so it's good to get those out of the way early in attempts.
Yes.
That's also the reason they started with 6-5 instead of 6-6. They're going slightly out of order on the levels because in normal attempts, 6-5, it's so fast but also inconsistent. You want to just like spam attempts there. Meanwhile, this 6-6, if you start there, you've got like 2 to 3 minutes of gameplay before you get to that reset point.
Yeah. But now we've got Jablaky entering Battle of Endor. This is the first like true ground level where we're going to see a lot of movement. And this is actually one of the harder levels in the run. It's very execution based, and it's very quick as well. You'll see in the end room specifically. So there's a lot of points at which they could mess up, and the lead could switch.
Yeah, and here we're seeing triple jumping. Well, Saber's about to do one on the left. If you do a double jump slam, that slam animation gives you a little bit of upward momentum. That usually it like cancels it immediately and sends you straight down. It's like a ground pound move. But if you switch immediately after you slam, you get to cancel the rest of the animation and just keep that extra momentum. So it gives you essentially a third jump. And that's maybe the most useful glitch in the game. It's every ground level should have many of them.
Definitely. And you use triple jumping for Yoda clipping as well, which is how you clip through the ceilings and the walls. I think Saber's caught up a little bit.
Yeah, it's just a few seconds, and that missed triple jump from Jablaky, even closer.
Yeah. So something you're also seeing them doing is animation canceling, and this is just our most useful tech. You'll see Jablaky doing it a little bit there. This is our most useful tech to clear enemies and just clear barriers. Um, so when Droideka shoots his gun, normally he has this really long animation where he shoots twice and then his shield comes out and you can't move for a little bit. So the way we kind of counter this is you can take a shot with Droideka, and then you can switch your characters. So obviously the animation stops because you can switch whenever you want. Doesn't matter what animation you're in. And then you can just switch back to Droideka, and you can keep doing that over and over and over again. That's our fastest way to kind of clear any enemies.
And that benefits a lot from another thing about free play is that this is a like completed file. You can do whatever you want on the file before you start the run. So we have these extras in the game that you can pick up in a level, and it'll give you special abilities like invincibility, exploding blaster bolts, a lot of other things, fast build, fast force. But it's those first two I mentioned that make animation canceling with Droideka just super powerful. You destroy everything in front of you, and you don't have to worry about dying yourself.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can kind of see the execution that goes into this room. There's a lot of 1P2C and a lot of dropouts. And some of these dropouts are like very specifically timed so that we can skip camera pans. Because every time you pull one of these levers, there's a camera pan. You'll see it on Jablaky's side here. There's a camera pan that shows the kind of barrier breaking towards the bombs. Pretty solid Endor from both. I think Jablaky ended up, and with that mistake, he's gonna gain even more time. But
This is yeah, it is possible to pull both of those levers with one player before it resets, but you have to be pretty like active about it. And doing that on player 2 is kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna see why the runners have been using Grievous so far on player 2, and that's because there's a wall climb here, and that chain triple jumps against a wall, and every time you switch And at the top of the triple jump, you switch to Grievous, and because he's really big, his feet are going to be like inside of the wall when you switch. And so you can use that to get another jump out of the wall and just keep chaining that and go like as high as the wall will let you. So that lets them get over this barrier that Jablaky's climbing right now. And that skips minutes of gameplay.
Hmm. This is a pretty hard wall climb. It's worth noting that you actually can't do this on every wall. It's only very specific walls. Um, and this one you have to kind of change the angle in halfway through, so it's really odd. So that's why this is a pretty infamous skip in the free play run, especially since it's early as well. And then this,
the one Saber's about to do is a bit of an easier example of a wall climb.
Yeah.
You just need one climb.
this end room though is pretty straightforward. You just kind of pull these levers and they'll make these satellites destroyable. And that's pretty much it. Pretty easy. You don't really see runners lose a ton of time in this section. One thing that's huge in the run is character management. I don't know if any of you caught that, but at the end of that level, Jablaky switched his characters, and you'll see Saber do it here as well. Obviously, it's faster to exit the level with desired characters, um, and so it's important to kind of keep track of where you're at the entire level with your characters, especially player 2, because sometimes when they're not dropped in, they'll automatically switch to someone random. So just kind of keeping track of that and making sure you're on the right characters saves you a lot of time in the cantina, so you don't have to select the right ones.
Yeah, now we see a pretty major shift in the run. We get the introduction of Yoda, who I think really just completes the showcase of how broken this category is. Yoda has the big thing with Yoda is that his hitbox is really weird, and that allows you to triple jump into a ceiling and just clip through it. And we'll see that in a couple rooms for Jablaky, but also Yoda, you can see on the left, his movement is just kind of different from other characters. He has a faster airspeed. He also has like a faster slash animation. And so you can use a lot of that to get movement advantages that you wouldn't be able to with another character.
Yeah, here's a Yoda clip Jablaky's doing right there. Nice. Yeah, Yoda, in kind of the same way that Grievous is large, Yoda's small, and so whenever you switch from a normal character to him, or even just the other way around, the game kind of doesn't know how to handle the hitbox change. And especially because Yoda can slam, that kind of what completes like Yoda clipping, because he can get that extra height.
And so this end section of Carcoon is a pretty difficult 1p2c because you have to kind of it's very active with both players. You're changing directions on these box pushes and shooting the targets. And box pushing on its own is a pretty annoying tech and like mechanic in the game. So managing that with two players is a bit tough, but Saber got through that very cleanly.
I don't think there's too much more box pushing in the run.
Yeah.
So
Most of it we can skip.
yeah. Yeah, and actually episode 6 is probably the episode with the most 1p2c as well. We won't see it nearly as much of it.
Yeah, I'd say compared to most, like compared to story runs of this game, there's really not a lot of 1p2c because the skip tech is just so powerful that you don't have to do most of the things you would want a 1p2c. You just clip through
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
we
you,
do
you,
get
s-
a
you go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, we get a fun rare character on this level, the Gonk
That's
droid,
what I was
who
gonna say.
has some fast out of bounds movement. When there's an extra called Super Gonk, which turns him from like the slowest character to one of the fastest, and you can use that for out of bounds movement. He's Droideka can't go out of bounds, like he doesn't stay up like other characters do, so you need someone else. So if you can get Gonk, he's still pretty close to as fast.
Hmm. And you kind of saw Jablaky do it there. You'll see Saber do it in a second as well. In this room, there's a hidden door right underneath a grate, and it just kind of takes you to the end room. And in free play, it doesn't have as much applicability. You'll see Saber jump into it right there, because you can just activate the panel since you have every character. But in story, that skip saves a lot of time. It's probably like 40 seconds or a minute. Just kind of a weird quirk that in free play it only saves like 2 seconds, just because we have all the characters and no cutscenes, obviously.
Yeah, Jablaky is going in now to episode 5. He's gonna do kind of a really weird skip on this first level, Betrayal over Bespin. Um, so what he's gonna do is when he gets to the last room of the level, he's gonna actually turn around and go way like far enough back to deload that room. And what that does is to end the level, you need to kill a bunch of stormtroopers to open access to the end trigger. So when he turns around and deloads the room, he deloads all of the stormtroopers. So when he comes back, they're all deloaded, so the end trigger is active and he doesn't have to kill them all.
It really makes the end section nice in this level because before that skip was known about, there was a decent bit of RNG, and this just makes it really consistent.
And he's fumbling a little bit. You want to deactivate or force disable C3PO, so that way when you get to the point where that room deloads, which is right through that door, he is exactly where you left him, and you can just call in and warp.
Yeah, otherwise he'll follow you going down that hallway. Because this is a really easy way to skip a lot of movement. Since he'll stay there, you can just get past the trigger, call in player 2, and then drop out player 1, then you'll just kind of warp back here. And you saw Jablaky right there. He's just doing character management right there so that he doesn't have to kind of select Yoda in the character select screen.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is the end Jablaky's coming up on. You have to. This actually is not a clip he's doing. It's a triple jump because there's no ceiling, but you have to jump very high, so it is really precise.
And Saber's just gonna catch up right to him there.
Yeah,
He's just not gonna do it.
do it. It
And look
doesn't
at
save
that.
much, as you can see, just that one panel.
There we
So
go.
probably smart to not go for it.
Yeah, I gave him the
And-
lead.
And here they are just walking into the end. They can skip the whole end condition there.
Coming up is probably the most infamous level in the run and just the game. Maybe not in this specific run, but in story for sure. But this is a really hard level in this run as well. Um, there's a lot of really weird Yoda clips. Something to kind of know about Yoda clips is they're all different. It's not just doing the same thing to clip out every time. There's different jump timings, different slam timings for all of them. And this one has some really weird ones that you don't really see in a lot of other places. And
Yeah.
kind of the biggest showcase of that is the one Saber's coming up on, which allows us to skip this room and the entire second Darth Vader fight. He can just he'll clip out right there, and he just goes behind the trigger, and he'll activate this room instead, skipping all of DV2 as we call it.
And you saw Saber like full stop there with Droideka at the end of that room. There's a bit of an annoying soft lock that can happen if you play the room too fast. So we have to just take a second to Like it doesn't have to be very long. We just have to pause to make sure you can actually finish the level. And now they're just gonna blitz through the end here, doing some slash animation cancels with Yoda, which is the same principle as with Droideka, where you just do a jump slash and you don't have to wait for the end leg of that. You just switch to Droideka, switch back so that the animation is done and you can attack immediately again.
Mm-hmm. This next level Dagobah is really hard as well. Episode 5 especially is probably the most difficult episode. I guess it's a little subjective, but it really starts out kind of hot. You got to be on point with these first few. Um,
Yeah.
and especially this one. There's so many instances, especially like with this lake.
Oh my god.
That was clean. That was really clean.
They're
Oh,
both doing it. So
yeah,
no, the normal way to skip that first pond that they jump through is to fly over it with Boba, but his movement is slower than like Yoda jumping. What they just did was faster. I don't know if I've seen that exact strat before.
yeah. It's worth noting that that's maybe saves like less than half a second, and it's so easy to die there if they just kind of
Mhm.
move slightly or space the jump incorrectly. That was really
Yeah.
clean by both of them.
I mean, to explain it a bit more, there's like buttons in the pond that you normally like press other buttons to get those to rise up. But if you jump onto them before they show up, you can still land there. So they still are landing on like small platforms,
Hmm.
but they just can't even see them.
We actually have like a little bit of a routing difference they're doing here. They're doing different clips. Oh, and Jablaky gets it first try, so he takes the lead. That clip that he did there is pretty difficult, and so it's totally understandable that Saber would do the alternative strat, which is just a little bit slower. But it does give Jablaky the
Yeah.
lead. Oh, it's a really
Ooh, yeah.
unfortunate death. This is the absolute Dagobah experience right here. That a
Mhm.
death in this level is one of the most costly ones because there's very few respawn points, especially like you can't respawn in the lake. Um, and then there's a lot of gaps that you have to kind of jump slash over. And so if you like
Yeah.
mistime the jump to get over those, you'll just fall into the void.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way dying works is normally you just die where you are and you're dead for 2 seconds and then you reappear. So it's really not punishing at all in this game. But the exception is if your respawn is somewhere far back,
Hmm.
then you have to do all that movement again. And that's
Yeah.
a pretty rare example where like he was, the platform he jumped on was not a respawn point and he had done a long boba fly, so he had to go way back.
Yeah. All right. So this level is probably the most hated level in the run.
Yes.
It's got
Yes.
the biggest RNG section in the entire run, which is in the last room of the level. We call it Boulder. There's a giant boulder that you have to blow up. There's 6 targets, and the targets are kind of spread all around the boulder. And the boulder just spins, and the pattern it spins in is like random. And the torpedo targeting in this game is really bad. So you'll see it
Yeah.
once they get there, but there's some good boulders and there's some really bad boulders. And I feel like in free play, it's usually a little bit worse than in the story. That could just be entirely placebo. So I feel like some people have
Yeah.
thought the other way, but
At
um,
at the very least, it has a bigger impact because this category
yes.
is generally like shorter, more consistent.
Hmm. Yeah, like a lot of the splits in this category are 1-2 minutes long, so you really only want to be losing like 2 seconds to your gold there every time at the minimum if you were trying to optimize it a lot. But here, like, you can lose 30 seconds to boulder all the time.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
And
Jablake's at it first.
I think he only has like two. It's not a great start. I'll say
No.
that.
Oh, he's gonna miss that one. This is the problem when the boulder's
Yeah.
fast too, is that you'll shoot a target and then it just won't be able to catch up.
Yeah, like this is a really fast boulder. And
Yeah.
And now he has
Jablake-
that one target that's on the back. I don't know if he'll get it.
Yeah.
Oh, he got it. Okay.
Okay, that was pretty lucky. I think Jablaky's got 2 in the back left. Okay, Jablaky's boulder,
that
or
is
sorry,
the
Saber,
last-
not Jablaky. But yeah, Saber's boulder was a lot better than Jablaky's.
Yeah.
And he hasn't entirely caught up, but he's caught up a little bit.
Mhm. I mean, Jablaky was like, if he didn't get, he got a pretty lucky torpedo target at the end. If he didn't get
Yeah.
that, it could have been a disaster.
Hmm.
Now we're on Echo Base. This level is interesting because the like collision out of bounds is a lot more thoroughly done. So like you can't like there's walls like outside of the floor extends past the walls, and that lets you like go
Yeah.
out of bounds and just go around the whole level. Normally you would die because there isn't a floor beyond the walls. And I mean, a lot of the other clips too are just like a little different because the collision is not the same in this level.
Yeah. Jablaky opting for the 1P2C here. You can actually hit all 5 of these buttons with just one player. Let's see if Saber tries it.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's gonna try it.
And he
Nice.
gets it.
Really just saves a dropout, but a dropout's probably about like 0.8 to 1 second. So some solid time save. And the trigger for this Falcon is just always active, so you can just clip into it and hit the trigger to end the level.
Now, one more level left in episode 5. It's another RNG vehicle level, Hoth Battle. And that RNG comes from at the end you get in this big arena and you have to kill a bunch of enemies, and where those enemies spawn is random. So, but we do have a way to kind of deal with that if you want to talk about VSB.
Yeah, so VSB stands for Vehicle Smart Bomb. It's another extra in the game. And basically what it does is if you hold the special button in a ship level, it's probably like 3 seconds you hold it for. Every enemy that's on screen will just blow up. And so it's a much more efficient way to kind of get rid of all the enemies in the arena. You can see Jablaky do it here. He's actually not going to shoot at all. The pod racer can't shoot, but he's just going to start blowing things up. And you see the screen shaking and stuff, and all the enemies dying. That's VSB. And what he's doing with both players is he's staggering the VSBs. So he'll press, for example, with player 1 first, and then wait like 2 seconds maybe. Then he'll press the special button with player 2. That way he's got pretty constant VSBs, and he won't miss as many enemies going around. Because if you just have one player doing it, you're gonna have to go back because you miss a lot of guys. So staggering the VSBs really helps you clear out all the enemies super fast.
Wow. And that's where the RNG comes in. You don't I mean you're just doing that same motion, but where the enemies are varies. And we saw Saber get quite a bit better RNG, and now it's almost tied.
Oh wow, now Saber actually got even better RNG here. He got both the AT-ATs, and Jablaky only has 1. So Jablaky's gonna go after. Okay, that's not too bad. There was potential for that AT-AT to be all the way on the other side, but this isn't too bad. But Saber's probably just gonna take the lead here because his RNG was a lot better.
Yeah. And that's one of the more difficult 1P2Cs, just because ship levels are a little tricky to control, and I think he wrapped both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is something you can only do when you get that RNG, but it is quite difficult.
Yeah, and then even like just towing the AT-AT while also grabbing a bomb with the other ship is really difficult. This is a really hard level. A lot of people struggle with this one, and just the added RNG to it makes it not easy to pace your gold on. But
yeah,
Saber with a pretty solid haul.
Yeah, fantastic arena, both with luck and execution. He had it all. Right, now we're approaching my favorite level of the game, Secret Plans. This was the first level they made in Lego Star Wars 2, which became the second half of this game. So, like I mentioned with Echo Base, the collision is a lot more like fleshed out. So you can't do a lot of the normal clip techniques, but you can still skip everything. You
Yeah.
see, he's like going through floors that extend past the wall, so now he has to be very careful to enter the right transition there. If you go too far forward or back, then you end up in the wrong place.
Yeah, and what happens is you'll hit the back transition, which will just kind of reload the room you're already in. Uh, but then you have to clip out in a much harder way than you can at the beginning of the room.
Another clip there to skip what should be a confrontation with Darth Vader, and there's the out of bounds floors that don't normally exist allow you to do
Yeah.
that and take a good like corner cut line.
And just what we watch right there is kind of just a perfect example of how much time you can lose by missing a clip once. We saw Saber in the lead a little bit, and then they kind of were both on the exact same clip, and then Jablaky just gets it the one after that a little bit sooner. Now he's got a multiple second lead. Also, I should mention part of the reason we're doing episode 4 up instead of down is because of this level. You actually can't end this level with Droideka, since the level just ends as soon as you're done using that R2 panel. So that's the reason we do this episode up instead of down.
Yeah, if we were to do it down, then we would have to do the whole Cantina movement to episode 3 without Droideka. So instead, we just bite the bullet on the like 2 second difference from spawning on the wrong side of the door.
Mm-hmm.
And now we see the return of Gonk Droid, and he's quite helpful in this level as someone you can jump to. Now, when you triple jump, you have two options. You can switch left to Droideka, which is good for height, but his airspeed is really bad, so you will not get any distance. And then you can also switch right, usually to like a Sith, and that is good for distance, but you're not going to get a ton of height. Gonk Droid is great because not only is his airspeed even faster than the normal Sith, so you get more distance, you also get the droid height. So triple jumping to Gonk is like really powerful.
Yeah. And if you're wondering why we don't just do that all the time, Gonk Droid, we only get him naturally in a couple levels, and we don't want to select him because we need Droideka and Yoda. So I think we only get him in this level, Jabba's Palace, and Spaceport. I think that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we have something even better in Spaceport, we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's extremely useful in this level. He just makes everything a piece of cake. Whereas these would be like
And there's a lot
real,
of
like you couldn't do that triple jump that Jablaky just did without Gontroid.
Mhm.
Nice.
There's a lot of ways to skip that last set of quicksand. So it's interesting to see what runners choose to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a slightly different setup from Saber going up to the left.
Mhm.
And as long as you can get the distance up there, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. And the time difference is like extremely negligible.
Yeah. And here we have a speeder clip, which is pretty self-explanatory. You just kind of push the other player into a wall and they can clip through. You might see it again up here, though I would guess they don't go for it. This one doesn't save much time, and it's pretty hard.
Yeah, Jablaky's just not gonna do it. The only time it saves in this level is not having to use that panel to open the door.
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
Right.
You want to
Alright,
explain
weird
that?
skip. Yeah, so Jablaky, there's this trigger that Yoda is in right now that spawns a bunch of enemies. And you have to kill those enemies to open the garage door. but the trigger is only activated by player 1. If player 2 is also in, they don't activate it. So if you kind of leave player 1 behind, go forward with player 2. Now, okay, Saber messed it up. He went too far forward with player 1, but you could skip needing to kill all of them if you can just dodge the transition of the trigger entirely.
Yeah. That's actually kind of a really unfortunate time loss. It's gonna set him back a lot.
But yeah, now extra toggle is on. That's another extra that gives you access to some bonus characters, including the Womp Rat, who he has the same movement speed as Droideka, except he can maintain it in the air and have it out of bounds. So we'll see, like, triple jumping to Womp Rat is one of the best triple jumps in the game, and like this out of bounds movement, you wouldn't really be able to do that with Droideka.
Yeah.
But the main reason extra toggle is on is for what we'll see on the right with Jablaky. There is the mouse droid, who is the true fastest character and has the same properties as Womp Rat, airspeed, out of bounds movement, and is just incredibly fast.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I did not know about that clip Jablaky just did.
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
That's just the beauty of this game. You can just clip anywhere.
Yeah. Because that transition is pretty weird. Like, you have to hit it like running into the door. So usually we just stay out of bounds like Saber's doing and like clip way before. So that was interesting.
Yeah, we only get the mouse droid in this level and then the one after it. So both Death Star levels. That was really clean by Jablaky.
Yeah.
Now the level coming up for Jablaky Death Star Escape, there's another similar thing that we saw in Bespin with the Falcon and the deload with the Stormtroopers. That exact same principle is applied in this level. It was actually discovered in this level first, and it's what we call Falconless. And it saves even more time in this level as well, because instead of just wiping out the enemies like in Bespin, in this level there's a ton of end room puzzles that you can skip as well. I think it saves like a minute in free play.
Yeah. And so here's the backtrack. That was the end room, and now he is going to go back just towards around the middle of this room. You see there's like a helmet dispenser that he passed in the air, and when he passed that, he deloaded this room. And now the end trigger is open to use.
Yeah, this level is extremely hard. Saber kind of needed Jablaky to have a not great DSCU here, but he's having a pretty solid one.
As long as he gets this jump, which, yeah, you see, he just like, it looks like he just jumped into a void, but he jumped where the door to the Falcon would be if you did it normally.
Mm-hmm. Now, coming up for Jablaky, I'm assuming he'll do the clip here. I mean, maybe he won't. It does save 10 seconds, though. But this is one of the hardest clips in the game because... Okay, he's actually not going to do it.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
There's a clip that you can get out of... A way to get out of bounds in this room. We just call it Room 1 clip for being in Room 1, obviously. But it is really difficult. I don't think it's like a 1-frame window, but it's pretty close to that. It's probably like 2 or 3 frame window for the switch you have to do to get out of bounds. I wonder if Saber will do it. Let's try it and catch up.
We will at least see some other clips. Like, this one is really easy because you can just lodge yourself into that cubby there. Well, okay, if he can actually hit that, then you have like all the time in the world to switch.
Yeah.
And player 2 is called in for Saber. That means he is going to just shoot the torpedo targets as well.
Honestly, I don't blame either of them. It's really really difficult trick, and it loses like 3 seconds every time you miss it, or something like that. So
Yeah.
but yeah, without that room 1 equip, this level is pretty straightforward. Just kind of killing all these turrets and blowing up every torpedo target.
And now that is the end of the original trilogy, and we're into the prequels. These levels are generally shorter and simpler than the original trilogy because it was originally an entirely different game. Like they made Lego Star Wars 1, which was the prequels, and then they made Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. So, by the time they made the second game, they had, new mechanics already, behind their belt, and they kind of made the levels a little more fleshed out. So,
Yeah.
we're going to see kind of shorter, more consistent levels going forward.
Yeah, it's actually like really easy to tell from a level design perspective that they were kind of just 2 games and they combined them. Like I think, for example, I don't think there's a single buildable panel in any of the prequels, whereas like there's a ton of them.
The 1-1, but that's the only one.
Right? Yeah, you're right. You're so right. But yeah,
That's like a tutorial if you do skip ahead to the original trilogy. But
yeah.
yeah. Okay, this level is a little scary because if you die at all, you warp back to the start of the room. It's supposed to be like the final boss level of the prequel game. So, it's punishing if you do make a mistake, but otherwise, fairly straightforward movement.
hmm And there's kind of a cool thing you saw Jablaky do at the end, where you can just force your enemy into the lava, and he'll just instantly go down to 1 heart, so you don't have to slash all of the first 9 hearts at least to get there. But yeah, pretty clean Vader from both of them. Ruin's a pretty straightforward level. There's this level is really just a 1-trick pony, and the 1 trick is
Mhm.
just a Yoda clip. It is
Yeah.
a really weird Yoda clip, but that's all
Yeah.
it really is.
It is often called RNG clip, not because it is RNG, but it is like kind of weird and can feel random.
Yeah,
So
I
I
there's
wouldn't be
not
shocked
really
to see a miss.
there's maybe there's like a few that I'm just not being able to think off the top of my head, but there's not really another clip like this, at least in the free play run. So
Yeah.
I know runners struggle with this one. Okay, decently quick from Jablaky. Yeah,
I
Saber's
guess.
gonna have to hope for a pretty big mess up from Jablaky here. I think he's got like a solid 30-second lead, maybe even more than
Yeah.
that.
And I mean, this is a level where that certainly can happen. Kashyyyk,
Yeah.
in this first room, you have some very strange clips where like there's some like walkable floor that's like basically on top of the death barrier. So you're gonna see him clip out and just like fall all the way down. It looks like he should be dead, but you can just move down there, and that skips the entire first room. But this second clip ahead is pretty tough, and you also have to navigate around the death barrier, which can be really strange because you don't see it. You just have to take a deliberately bad line.
This is definitely a very skill intensive level just because the clips are weird. There's a bunch of high triple jumps. Overall, just these movement levels really test your skill. I wonder if any of them got Grievous, and if they did, if they'll do the wall climb. Looks like Jablaky's
Yeah.
not doing it. If you get Grievous, you don't have to triple jump where Jablaky did right there. You can just go all the way to the end, kind of over here from the ground, and just wall climb up. It's like 1 or 2 seconds faster. Oh,
Fun random upward.
yeah. There's random pixels in this level. Another free play tech that you don't really. Maybe you've seen it. We're probably just so used to it we didn't even think to mention it. But when you're out of bounds in this game, if you switch characters, you'll up warp all the way to the top, like the surface. And the same thing kind of applies when there's just random pixels in the air. If you switch characters, which he was doing when he was animation canceling, he's just gonna warp all the way to the top.
Okay, we get a rare Wicket appearance. This is a this they're gonna basically skip this entire fight with Grievous. Normally, you do like a couple hearts of damage, and then he'll jump away, and you have to go and like blow up some bombs to get him to come back. But if you are not standing above the main platform when he's damaged, he will not do any of that. He will just take the damage. So the level's already done. It's the shortest, well, second shortest in the game. Um, if you just get off of the main platform with Wicket, who has this catapult that can still shoot right down onto Grievous and just spam shots, he'll take damage and won't do anything about it.
Yeah. The level that Jablaky's on right now, Chancellor, um, is one of the most difficult levels in the run, simply because the clips, missing them is just really punishing. Especially this one that's coming up, where there's an up warp here that if you time it very perfectly, you can actually hit the transition to the next room. So he's gonna try it right here. Let's see if he gets it.
Uh, and looks like he's gonna go for it again, or at least just try
Yeah.
to actually get up there.
Oh, nice.
Oh, we got it. Yeah. So that transition is exactly inside of the door. And if you're behind it or in front of it, you can't get at it. You have to just open the door normally.
Yeah.
So it's quite a big difference.
It saves like 8 seconds or something if you get it first try.
Yeah.
He probably broke even there, but and yeah, Saber accidentally triggered the camera pan at the beginning of this level, so already off to the not not greatest start. Good lord. But yeah, pretty solid from Jablaky.
Mhm.
Let's see if Saber gets the up warp.
Oh no, Jablaky.
Oh
So
no.
the character management at the end of this level seems to kind of defy what normally are the mechanics. I don't know why I don't know why it is that way, but you have to do some like special extra switches to get the characters you want. Um and he didn't do that. He ended with so he's going to have to like switch to some random character in the cantina probably for his
Yeah.
movement to 2-6.
It's actually gonna lose him a lot of time if he doesn't switch
Yeah.
to a different character. Which he's definitely aware of, because he got
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to do very specific character switches entering this last room that Saber's entering to
Yeah.
avoid that.
Yeah, and he did it right. He switched player 1 to Dredica before he switched player 2 off of Yoda. And that is the main thing you want to do. Um, and you see it gets the right characters. Um, Jablaky's playing a level. Um, this is Battle Over Coruscant, the longest level in the run because it's an auto-scroller.
I guess we could talk about the one thing there is to talk about in this level, and they
Yes,
have
yes.
both players called in, and they're both using the Falcon. And the reason is if you have both players in there stacked like they are right now, they'll actually push each other faster. So, and the bigger the ship, the more speed they get. And we do this in every category pretty much, but when you're in free play and you have a big ship like the Falcon, it actually saves an incredible amount of time over just playing the level with one player. I think doing this saves like 17 to 20 seconds just in an auto scroller, which is a huge time save. And I guess also they're doing like they're putting their players in specific positions to kind of pan the camera. That also just helps a little bit, but like you see Jablaky's all the way in the top right. Right now Saber's in the top left. They're just kind of following the camera.
Yeah, if you go kind of where the camera is turning, you can kind of take slightly tighter turns.
Yeah.
But that's very minor.
This level does kind of suck because it ruins your momentum a little bit just because it's the longest level and there's really nothing to do other than following the camera. But you can kind of take it as a time to reset your mental a little bit if you're on like a PB pace run. Just kind of get ready for the last two episodes.
I mean, it comes after a couple of the hardest levels in the game, especially Chancellor. It can be, it's a good chance to like kind of figure out where you are and what you need going into the last episodes.
Yeah, because the last two episodes, maybe they're not as hard as like episode 5, for example, but you really don't want to slip up in those episodes because other than Jedi Battle, which we'll see in episode 2 later, you can pretty much pace your gold on every other split, barring like a couple minor RNG things. But yeah, you can just see what is happening to Jablaky for having 3PO.
Oh, you got R2. That's so much better. Okay,
wow,
that's actually incredibly lucky.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Droideka was only one character away from A-list.
Now, another careful character management point in the run. They're going to enter this little mid-tro cutscene thing, and you need to make sure neither of your characters are Droideka or Yoda, because if it's Droideka, he will switch to Yoda, and if it's Yoda, he will walk with his lightsaber put away, like turtle slow walking animation, and you just have to watch it. You have no control.
It loses so much time. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's programmed like that, because someone in a casual playthrough had to have just done that and waited probably 20 seconds to start playing again.
Other than that, it's a pretty like auto scrollery fight. You do have to you can like mess up and hit him too early, which gives him invincibility frames and loses a couple seconds. But that's a rhythm that these runners should have pretty much down because it's the same timing on like all bosses.
Something really minor that's an RNG factor in Dooku is what high jumper you get. So you saw, maybe you didn't notice, but Saber got Grievous and Jablaky got Jar Jar. And Jar Jar's ground speed is actually faster than Grievous's, so that's why we use the high jumper out of bounds, because if you get a little lucky like that, you might get a faster character out of bounds, which I think Jar Jar saves like a second over Grievous.
Yeah, with Jar Jar, it's very slight. The best one is Grievous's bodyguard, who has similar speed to Gonk.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jablaky playing through Gunship. This end room we have down to like a very set, like solid route. Like we know exactly where to go to minimize downtime, like which bomb to get and where to bring it. So as long as nothing bad happens, we can just stick to that. But it can be hard to adjust if you make a mistake.
Yeah, especially since a lot of the ships on the ground are very sporadic. They can accidentally blow up your bomb sometimes, and that just kind of ruins the whole flow of the room.
And Saber on the left is doing an interesting skip where if you are hovering over the edge, if you just spam switches on the character wheel, you'll stay up.
Yeah.
And you can use that to skip the barriers.
Alright, this is Jedi Battle, though. So, this is another really big RNG level in the run. There's wave functions here. So after he kind of knocks out all these pillars, which aren't really as RNG, he's going to have 6 droids he has to hunt, and there will be 2 waves of those 6 droids, and they just spawn anywhere in the level, and he has to go find them. And it's not very fun because sometimes they don't really spawn right away, and you just kind of have to circle the entire arena looking for them. Other times they'll all spawn on top of each other, basically, and you just finish the level incredibly fast. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, there are
Oh,
3 of
3
them.
right
That's a
there.
good start.
Nice.
Another thing that happens is a droid will start like following behind you, and so you'll just keep circling looking for him. And that's what happened. You have to turn around every once in a while and just make sure they're not right behind you.
And exploding blaster bolts and paired with animation canceling is incredibly powerful in this level because you can just take blind shots and you'll often get kills that you need.
Yeah. And also on the pillars, it just makes those nothing.
Yeah.
You know, just wipe it out in less than a second.
Alright, not terrible.
Pretty solid RNG. Yeah.
Let's see what Saber gets. Saber's gonna need some good RNG here.
For sure.
Otherwise, it's kind of just up on Jablaky to not mess up. Also, the
I
targeting.
haven't gotten
on this
any like
arena-
bursts of them. Like,
Yeah. I was gonna say the targeting in this arena is terrible. For some reason, when you're looking at like the security droids that you need to kill sometimes, man, this is really bad.
yeah, where I thought it would be behind him, but
Yeah.
now
This
I
is that
don't
instance
know.
that I was talking about where sometimes you're just circling the entire arena and you have no idea where the last one is. Wow, I have not seen a wave 1. There
Okay.
he is. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's really unfortunate. Okay, well, he's got a good start to wave 2.
Yeah.
If you can get this last one right away. There he is.
There he
Okay.
is. I mean,
It's still not good,
doesn't
though.
really make up for the wave.
Yeah.
Oh, bad death for Jablaky. Dying in the lava there takes you longer to respawn, so you don't want to do that.
Yeah. There are still a couple of opportunities for Saber to catch up. The next 2 levels in episode 2 that Jablaky has are pretty difficult, especially Bounty Hunter Pursuit.
Yeah.
And then pretty much any level in episode 1 can be subject to time loss.
Yeah. Especially the second half has some tricky ones.
Yeah.
One movement thing that the runners have been doing all run I want to call out is the transition movement. Now, when you go through a transition, you normally can't move for like about a second, but you can do like face button actions. You can jump, you can attack. So what they do is they'll be rolling as Droideka. They'll switch to Yoda right before they enter the transition, so that when they are in that second where they can't move, they can spam attacks with Yoda, and you get just like free movement. And and you see that basically any time they go through a door, and it just saves like half a second to a second every single time.
Yeah, this is still gonna be difficult though. Saber's almost a full level behind, really.
Mhm.
And Jablaky's just been nailing these Camino clips.
Yeah. I mean, that one he just did is like very difficult, and
Yeah.
I mean there was also a boba fly in room one we didn't call out, but
Mhm.
that is quite difficult. He got it first try,
Yeah.
so really clean from him. Oh,
That had to have been an accident.
yeah.
You want to explain what's going on there?
I will try. So they his both players are running way ahead of Django, who you're supposed to be like following behind, chasing him, and the I think in order to prevent you from like getting too far ahead, there's this like kill trigger where the first player that flies across, if it's not Django, they'll if it's you, they'll kill you. But if you send a second player across right after, they won't kill the second player. So you fly across with both players, and the first one dies as a sacrifice, but the second one gets through, and then you can do a clip and get there before Django arrives.
Yeah. For some reason, they didn't just make the kill trigger active always until Django crosses it. They put it on a timer, and it just lets us
Yeah.
use it. Jablaky kind of fumbling that slam a little bit. Normally, you aren't able to slam Django here, actually, but the extra, I think it's Super Jedi Slam, just lets you hit him from the ground.
What's going on? Okay. A little trouble getting that last hit.
Yeah. Honestly, that was a really poor Django fight from Jablaky. This is
Yeah.
a good opportunity for Saber to make up some time.
Hmm. You played very well the rest of the level, though.
Yeah. Bounty Hunter Pursuit is extremely difficult in this category, and it's actually because of an odd reason. It's because we have infinite torpedoes. So normally in story, we always play this level without infinite torpedoes, and in free play, obviously we have the extra, and it's still faster to have infinite torpedoes. But for some reason, a mechanic in this game is if you have infinite torpedoes, the torpedoes actually shoot way slower. There's like a cooldown that's much longer than if you don't have infinite torpedoes. So every time you shoot a torpedo here in free play, it takes way longer to shoot the second one, and it just makes this end room extremely clunky and slow. Um, and you can even shoot these targets way faster if you're right next to them. Otherwise, they'll like circle around. Like you can see that torpedoes circling around. So this room is
Mhm.
really easy to lose a bunch of time on, but this is a really good start, honestly.
Yeah. It's just a really awkward room.
Yeah,
And
not intuitive at all. Like right there,
yeah.
he probably lost like a good 5 or 6 seconds just on that little end section. And then the end fight, you can literally just spam with both players and win immediately.
Yeah. They set you up facing straight at Zam.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to spam the attack button if you just
No,
hold it down with both
yeah.
players.
But on to episode one. Just want to point out the reason we do episode one up as well instead of down is because we don't have to come back down to do another episode. So it's just faster to start from the first level and finish at the sixth level.
Ooh, we get fun mechanic. So you see Saber left a tower on attack, but you
Yeah.
actually that specific tower you don't have to destroy. They like didn't link it up in the code. So if you just get all the 11 other ones, it's fine.
Which is a really weird bug. I really don't understand
Yeah.
how that got past. And it is that like only that tower. Like any other one you have to destroy,
Mhm.
but you can just leave that one. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Often it'll get destroyed anyway just because you're in the area shooting torpedoes, but it is
Yeah.
faster to not do it.
Yeah, I think usually runners destroy it anyways because sometimes when you're shooting torpedoes to the other targets, the torpedo target in this game is awful, and so sometimes it'll auto target to that one that you actually don't need to destroy, and kind of just messing up your flow. So usually, at least for me, for example, I'll destroy that one just on my way out of there.
Yeah, this and the first half of episode 1 that they're in. Okay,
Ooh,
well that's a very bad. I was gonna say
yeah,
this is like a really consistent part of the run, but these falling pillars you're on with Jablaky, uh, they don't give you a respawn because they're moving. So he like went from pillar to pillar and just fell off and actually lost a ton of time.
yeah. That's the kind of depth
Otherwise,
that Saber needs him to have.
yeah. Otherwise, these levels are very consistent because
Yeah,
it's just like movement and maybe one or two tricks.
yeah. Yeah, I would say the level that we're looking at for most time loss is definitely pod race, which won't be the next one
Yeah.
Jablaky plays, but the one after that. Because if one of them messes up pod fraud, which is the lap skip in that level, it could get really disastrous. And that level's really
Mm.
scary because in any percent, it's the fourth level we play. So if you mess it up, you can just reset. But here, it's right at the end of the run.
Yeah.
And if you mess that
And
one
like
up, it's kind of just GG.
like the skip in neutral terms isn't hard. Like
Yeah.
especially if you're doing an easy setup, you can get it like every time, but like that's the one thing always in the back of your mind when you're on a good free play run. It's like if I miss pod fraud, none of this matters. And like
Yeah.
it's a really difficult test of nerves to do that trick because
Hmm.
well it is like easy when you're doing it well, it's super finicky, and if you make like one half second wrong button press, it's over.
Yeah. Blake, you can
Eh,
skip that camera pan. He kind of messed it up a little bit. Good opportunity for Saber to catch up a little bit.
and here for Saber is a good example of an up warp where you just clip into the wall and then switch and it jumps you all the way up, just like nearest floor above you,
Yeah.
and so that skips the whole ring.
So yeah, for the pod race lap skip, which we call pod fraud, it happens right at the end of lap one. So we still have to play the majority of lap one. And I know
Mhm.
for me at least, whenever I'm in this section, uh, it's just kind of like the nerves building up
Yeah,
because you're about to kind of
there's
do the
nothing
trick
else
that's
to
gonna,
focus on.
yeah, it's gonna make or break your run right here. Um, and kind of looking at their level exits for escape, I think Jablaky's about 50 seconds ahead.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, Saber's just starting pod race now, so
Yeah.
gonna need something pretty bad here. Good so far.
He's going for zero death, which is the fastest setup. You go around what normally would be an early death trigger,
Yeah, just
and he gets it perfect.
yeah, beautiful pod fraud. Now, I mean, I think with Theed, there's definitely a chance to lose like a little bit of time, but the big one we're looking at is the last level Darth Maul.
Yeah. Maul is the big scary thing about Maul is that you can get a very unlucky character wheel and it completely screws up the movement. because that's a level where we're gonna bring Grievous again. And then the next character in your wheel after Grievous is a Jedi, and if that Jedi is Yoda because of his weird movement, the whole all of your muscle memory is gone. It's really hard to adapt.
Yeah. And they just do pod fraud again on the third lap just so they can get that speed boost. Kind of finish the lap faster. Saber got a good pod fraud as well, but he didn't do 0 death. He did the one that's slightly slower than that. It's only about 3 or 4 seconds slower, but still worth noting. So Theed is hard because there are a decent amount of clips, but it is just a long level, and you kind of get tested on these long levels just because there's so much more to mess up.
Curious if they're gonna do. There's a 1P2C at the end of this room
Yeah, I was
that
wondering.
saves a second or two.
I was gonna do the
I think it is pretty easy to have a bad time if you go for it, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just... Ooh, that was really close. I'm just gonna do the one-player thing. Definitely the safer option if he's looking to just close this one out.
Yeah, and there's a bit of RNG that was. I guess the RNG happened earlier. I didn't pay attention to how it went. You want to have
yeah.
Grievous on your wheel, which is a 1 in 3 chance of happening because you have 3 high jump characters on your file, and if you get Grievous, then that you saves the time you would need to switch to him in the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And Jablaky is going to do this one player. There is a strat where you have that last shot to kill the guys with Boba while player 1 just runs to the panel. But he's just going to play it safe still.
Yeah.
And he's just not going to let Saber back in this.
Yeah, and Maul paired with the small character wheel RNG, which we're gonna see right here. Let's just see what he gets. Okay, he got Luminara, so no Yoda, so he should be good there. Besides that, there are a couple things that could go really wrong. But I think both of these guys are just good enough at free play that they won't lose. I think Jablaky's got a good enough lead here to where as long as he just gets a clean finish, he should secure the win.
I don't think I knew you could make that jump that Jablaky just made at the start of the room.
Yeah. Do that. Okay.
Okay. And here is really the big trick in this level, the Maul Ultra Kill, where you just there's a trigger that is on that main platform, but the trigger is attached to Maul. So if you shoot him enough times, the knockback will push him off, and the trigger will go with him, and you just end the room.
Mm-hmm.
So he called in player 2 to do it, which is the more consistent way. The other way would be with one player animation cancels.
Yeah, when you do it with 2 players, you're basically just giving yourself. There's really no room for error if you're doing it with 2 players.
Yeah, you just alternate the shots, and he's
Yeah.
constantly being hit.
With the 1 player, if you mess up an animation cancel, Darth Maul has a chance to swing his lightsaber forward with a combo, and it kind of just resets all of your progress. We've got time coming up here for Jablaky.
Yeah.
Gonna finish 3, 2, 1 now. So you got a 1:10:52. It looks like. Congrats to Jablaky on winning the free play race. Really solid time, honestly.
I think, well, because this is RTA, so I think that might be a PB for him.
Yeah, I don't actually
want
know.
to see. And yeah, Saber not too far behind.
Yeah.
This end fight should be pretty quick. Oh, I guess the reason we bring Grievous into this fight is because if Maul has an odd number of hearts, he won't jump away like that. And Grievous does two hearts of damage, so you can like force him to always be at an odd number. But he kind of messed that up. He is getting these camera pan skips, which is good.
Yeah.
And coming up on the end.
So 1:11:55. Nice. GG's to both runners. And congrats to Jablaky on winning the race. I'm really curious what that was loadless, because we do actually time all of our runs without loads on the leaderboards. But for the sake of a race,
Yeah.
we just want to have RTA. But really solid race, honestly. Nothing too disastrous from either runner, I would say. Yeah, so I guess I just want to say thank you to all the guys at the Kessel Run for letting us showcase this game. It's been an honor. I know Anonymous and I are really fond of this category. It's one of our favorites.
Yeah.
And we just love being able to share with everyone. Thank you to Saber and Jablaky for participating in the race. Great race, pretty close for most of the way. And just appreciate all you guys for watching. Thanks.
No, no, no. Ah, Lawa.